Well, yesterday on the show, we speculated that Jared Kushner was perhaps the last person in the room before Trump met with Benjamin Netanyahu. We talked about that openly yesterday because that tends to be what Trump does. The last person to speak with him is the person who has his ear. Well, we now have confirmation of that in fact it was Jared Kushner, according to reports today and repeated in the Times of Israel, in Israeli publications, that Jared Kushner had President Trump's ear prior to his meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, and that the remarks that he delivered basically came right from Jared Kushner. Of course, you'll recall Jared Kushner has openly talked about the redevelopment plans for Gaza and the condominium projects and everything else that he would like to put there. Well, President Trump today clarified his position. Early this morning, he posted this on Truth Social. The Gaza Strip would be turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of fighting. The Palestinians, people like Chuck Schumer, would have already been resettled in far safer and more beautiful communities with new modern homes in the region. They would actually have a chance to be happy, safe, and free. The U.S., working with great development teams from all over the world, would slowly and carefully begin the construction of what would become one of the greatest and most spectacular developments of its kind on Earth. No soldiers by the United States would be needed. Stability for the region would reign. Okay, Senator Rand Paul tweeted this: the pursuit for peace should be that of Israelis and the Palestinians. I thought we voted for America first. We have no business contemplating yet another occupation to doom our treasure and spill our soldiers' blood. So what do we make of all of this? Of course, remembering that there's massive amounts of Palestinian oil and natural gas off the coast of Gaza. Is it all about money? Is it all about oil? Is it all about natural gas? Why should the United States be in Gaza? Well, we wanted to ask Daniel McAdams. He's the executive director of the Ron Paul Institute, co-host of the Liberty Report with Ron Paul, and former senior staffer on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Daniel, welcome to the show. What do you make, first of all, of Senator Rand Paul's comments? It appears that there is quite a bit of blowback to this plan. And what do you make of the president's comments today, sort of clarifying this position?
Well, I like the way you put it, the last person in the room. You know, it almost sort of reminds me of kind of a mini Hunter Biden. You know, hey, Pops, don't forget that land deal I was talking about. You know, right. And here he is. I wrote it down for you. Here, it's on this card. Just read it. So don't worry about it. It's no big deal. You know, it's funny, but not funny. Who knows? Maybe it's true. I think Senator Paul captures the sentiment of Americans who put Donald Trump in office. I mean, there's no question. We've watched polls very closely. Foreign interventionism, not only in Ukraine, but also in the Middle East. There was a recent poll, I think it was an ABC News, a poll that came out saying that 53% of Americans don't want any more military aid going to either of these wars. So the sentiment is clearly there with what Senator Paul has said. But now you pointed it out yesterday on your program. There were a few odd things about it. First was the fact that he was reading this from a card, which is uncharacteristic, I think, of President Trump. He doesn't need those cards. He was trying to get certain aspects of it straight. The other part is I genuinely, even though I was shocked to hear it, I genuinely did not detect malice in his voice, even as he said something that most people would consider to be very sort of cold and heartless. We're gonna kick you out of your land. I honestly don't think he felt malice. I honestly don't think he understood the implications of what he was saying.
Right. So one of the things that I feel is that he thinks that private contractors can come in, do a renovation like any renovation project that real estate investors sort of thrive on, and that it will be better. And so I gave him this benefit of the doubt, but with the tweet this morning where he says it will be turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of fighting, assumes that we are going to allow Israel to resume fighting. On what terms, though? And so it makes me think that the agreement with Benjamin Netanyahu is we're going back. We're going to do what we want. Is your read?
It does sound that way. I mean, it makes you wonder what the deal that was negotiated right as President Trump was sworn into office. It was a dramatic deal. Apparently, he sent his envoy over there to say, "Look, we need a deal," almost Godfather-like. "We need a deal. Sign this agreement, but don't worry. When the smoke clears, you're going to get something that you're not going to believe how great it is." And maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe Trump's just thinking this would be a hell of an HGTV show, going and renovating Gaza, but. It is bizarre, the idea that somehow you can tell people that they have to leave your home. Former Representative Justin Amash made a great point yesterday as well. He said, clearing out Muslims and Christians like my cousins from Gaza where they live would be an incredible act of ethnic cleansing, and it would be completely illegal. And Americans, the last thing we need in the world, Americans, that is another lengthy occupation of another country. And I think that's why he had to. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that's why he had to bring in his, in my opinion, very adept new press secretary who said, well, he didn't mean that we're going to send troops, and he didn't mean we're going to send any money to do it. Well, then how are you going to do it? I don't get that part.
Well, then Pete Hegseth today came out and clarified and basically said all options are on the table. So I'm not exactly sure. It seems to be like some mismessaging about troops on the ground in Gaza. But nevertheless, if you think about, Daniel, I don't know, maybe you totally disagree with this, but I think we have a fantastic track record of rebuilding countries. I mean, look what we've done in Iraq. We've done amazing work in Iraq. We've done amazing work in Afghanistan.
Libya is great.
Libya. Every country we tend to go into, we do amazing work rebuilding these countries. I mean, fool me once, right? I mean, how you're really going to go into Gaza and rebuild it? It's going to be the most spectacular thing we've ever seen. As someone in the chat just said, no, this is a dumb idea. It's not make Gaza great again. It's make America great again.
You scared me at first because I was thinking, okay, let me see Iraq. What am I missing? What did I miss then? I was a little bit worried at first, But this just really shows.
Haven't you been to Club Med, Iraq?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hanging out in Tripoli. Yeah, I mean, this just shows the folly of foreign policy interventionism. The American public is forced to pay for the bombs. We paid for the bombs. We gave Israel the money. They bought the bombs. They dropped the bombs. They blew everything up. And now we got to come back and pay to fix the things that were done by the bombs. And in every instance that you discussed earlier, that's exactly what happens. So we're taxed twice. We're taxed to blow it up, and we're taxed to fix it. And I think Americans are sick of that, and they're starting to sense that we're not getting anything out of these things. We wouldn't get anything out of Gaza as well. In fact, it's impossible. It won't work.
Yeah. Can I ask you, I mean, something that's striking me online over the past 48 hours since these comments were made, it seems like maybe this is a brilliant strategy to give neocons some cover that, it's not really about boots on the ground militarily. It's we're going to go in there and help. And neocons will swarm around that. And I see some support from people who were heretofore like pushing for military intervention. And now neocons are sort of aligning around this idea that, no, this is good because now we can go in there and rebuild it in our image. Am I wrong about that? Or is it just like a gut instinct feeling for cover for these neocons?
Well, Trump is a strange person. There's so much to admire about him. There are things that are frustrating about him. It's hard to understand what he's saying. This image of Netanyahu next to him by the fire. Well, Trump is saying that place is destroyed. The people have been hurt and killed. Everything is ruined. And here's, Bibi sitting there, because it's obvious. This is the guy who did it right next to me. This is the guy who did it,
Right.
And so you may be absolutely right. He may be saying, okay, neocons, you want to go in there? You want another war? Okay, here you go. Go for it. That could be what it means.
Here's another sort of backdoor idea that I had of like, maybe we're being sold this because Saudi Arabia is an ally as well of the United States, or at least we carefully call them that. And they have said no to this plan without an independent Palestinian state and East Jerusalem as its capital. So is there a way that maybe this Muslim community would accept it if it came from Saudi Arabia as the investors? And then, Israel may not go for it, but I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to look at this from some allies from some angles that it would work, because we have this comment in the chat saying from Patrick saying what we've been trying to do isn't working. We cannot force these two to stop doing what they're doing. And so I don't know. Is that crazy?
Okay, let me read Patrick's comment to you directly. Patrick Breck, thank you for your comment. He says, I like the Gaza plan because it shows something different. Otherwise, are we going to continue what hasn't been working? So what do you make of Patrick's question there, Natalie's?
I agree that we shouldn't continue what's not been working, but that thing that we shouldn't continue that's not been working is to continue to be the arms dealer for the Middle East, to continue to provide weapons. There's a concept in economics called moral hazard, where if you promise to backstop someone no matter what they do, they start becoming more and more reckless, And I honestly think that Israel is in a much worse situation now by picking a fight with all of its neighbors. And by what's happened to Gaza, the rest of the world is really mobilized against Israel. So they've actually painted themselves in a corner because they've always believed that Uncle Sam will have their back. It's kept them from trying to find some sort of a deal that works there. So it really is our presence in the middle of it that is the problem. So yes, your correspondent is correct, but in ways perhaps differently than he means to be.
Yeah, and I mean, Patrick is one of our viewers in our chat room right now. So just to, a lot of people saying they love this idea. Other people say, no, absolutely not. No MAGA in Gaza. So sort of mixed reactions here, I think, overall. But Daniel, get you out of here on this question, which is, what about the oil and gas? There's no discussion about the oil and gas, but isn't it what's beneath the surface, the hundreds of billions of dollars of minerals and resources that have been sitting there that the Palestinians really haven't been able to access because BP isn't going to do business with them, because Israel just get on the phone, do not work with the Palestinians to allow them to tap into this oil, and ExxonMobil do not work with the Palestinians. So this massive amount of riches sitting there, what's going to happen to that?
This is very Trumpian, I think. He tends to shoot from the hip when it comes to this. Ukraine, we got to get that rare earth. China, China, we got to do this. So this is sort of, I think, how he makes his deals. Unfortunately, in a situation like this, is slightly ill-informed, and it won't work out the way that he thinks it was. And one of the basic reasons is, think about this. What if it was our city? What if it was our family? What if it was our area? People don't want to just be forced out of where they live, even if it is a dump, like Trump pointed out. It's just human nature.
Daniel McAdams, we appreciate you joining us. Where can people find your work and the work that you do with one of our heroes, Ron Paul?
Well, thanks very much. We're at ronpaulinstitute.org. Dr. Paul and I do the Ron Paul Liberty Report every Monday through Friday at noon, live on Rumble, and we're also on, of course, X and YouTube.
Daniel, great to see you. Love your show. Love what you guys do. I mean, very few voices of truth out there, and you and Congressman Paul do such amazing work. So thank you, Daniel. Great to see you.
Thank you.